We've all done dumb things in our lives, right? But that usually doesn't involve losing a massive fortune and going completely broke. It takes an extra level of dumb to do that, and these NFL players are the perfect example of that different breed. Here are the 10 dumbest NFL players who lost millions and then went completely broke. Number 10. Clinton Portis. Portis is a former NFL player who played for 9 seasons in the pro. Drafted by the Denver Broncos, he burst into the limelight when he started playing for the Washington Redskins. He enjoyed a brilliant career, and he made over $5 million from his football contract alone. But he didn't stay rich for long. He blew all of his money on failed investments thanks to his team of whack financial advisors. He went on to lose multiple homes, and he had to live in a 2-bedroom apartment for several years. He revealed that he was so pissed at his financial advisors that he contemplated murdering them several times. To make it even worse, he was accused of criminal fraud in December 2019 with 11 other former NFL players and was charged with 1 count of healthcare fraud and 1 count of wire fraud. The rest of his money went up in flames following his legal fees, and he's currently serving a 6-month prison sentence. Number 9. Mark Brunell. Mark Allen Brunell is a former quarterback who played 19 long seasons in the NFL, but he's most famous for his time with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he played for 9 all seasons. As a Jaguar, he was an absolute beast. He racked up several honors, including 3 Pro Bowls and 1 Super Bowl. During his 18-year career, Brunell cashed in over $70 million, but somehow went on to blow it all. Brunell's woes began when he decided that the Whataburger franchise was a good way to spend his fortune and establish 11 locations in and around the Jacksonville area. Although this sounded like an amazing idea at the time, Brunell's investments didn't do so well, and he suffered huge losses from it. He also invested in a couple of real estate ventures with his teammates, all of which failed horribly, leaving him $25 million in debt, with assets valued at only $5.5 million. He was hired as the Detroit Lions quarterback coach in January of 2021, which gave him just enough money to get by and make a small $400,000 back. Number 8. Terrell Owens. Owens was widely regarded as one of the best players of his era in the NFL, ranking 3rd in career receiving yards and career receiving touchdowns with a total of 153. However, his incredible talent and unique playing style still didn't save him from blowing his $80 million fortune. He had a very extravagant life, and he spent huge amounts on cars and jewelry. But Owens was also known for his terrible attitude and arrogance. He was a pain to work with, and no team kept him around for very long, or at least long enough to bag a major deal. And he blew most of his fortune on a slew of real estate properties, which racked up mortgages of $750,000 a month. He believed that he could easily resell or rent out the house if he couldn't keep up with the payment, but it all backfired when the housing market just completely crashed. He gambled away the rest of his money on high-risk investments, and he currently owes his 4 baby mamas child support. Not surprising, he's supposed to be paying $45,000 in child support a month. Number 7. Deuce McAllister. Deuce was one of the most promising stars of his time, and he went on to have a brilliant career studded with silver. He was a 2-time Pro Bowl champion and a 1-time Super Bowl champion during his 8-season career in the NFL with the New Orleans Saints. His talent and his hard work earned him a mega deal worth $53 million at the time. But as it turns out, Deuce wasn't a very bright businessman. After his retirement in 2009, Deuce decided to buy a Nissan car dealership in Jackson, Mississippi, which he named after himself appropriately. However, it didn't take long for the business to fold due to his, well, not very amazing business skills. He lost a massive fortune, and he had to declare bankruptcy in the same year. He was consequently sued by Nissan Finance due to defaulted payments. He had to auction off all of his properties at ridiculous amounts to reduce his debts, including his Louisiana home. He's barely worth $50,000 at the moment. Number 6. Vince Young. Do you know what they say about fake friends who are only there when you have money to spend on them? Yeah, Vince learned the hard way. As a budding NFL star who looked well on his way to stardom, Vince was the recruit of the year as several teams wanted him. He was drafted by the Tennessee Titans, where he played for 4 long years before being let go. During this time, he managed to amass a pretty impressive sum of money and was spending extravagantly on himself and his friends. He loved to splurge on his friends and family members. He'd buy them cars and several expensive items. He would foot crazy bills incurred by his friends and family and frequently pick up 5-figure dinner tabs. He once bought every seat on a flight just so he could have the entire plane to himself. Yeah, he was that extravagant. To make matters worse, though, he picked an unqualified uncle to be his financial advisor, and he helped Vince squander his fortune so efficiently. Good job, man. Today, Vince is worth barely anything after squandering his $64 million fortune. Number 5. Dermontti Dawson. Dermontti played as a long snapper and center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he played for 22 years before eventually retiring. He had a brilliant career. He was indispensable to his team, as he started 181 out of the 184 matches that he played. His team surely understood his worth, placing him on a yearly salary of $4.2 million. Not much is known about his total earnings, but his losses were very well documented. Upon filing for bankruptcy in 2010, Dawson listed $69 million in debt after he blew his massive fortune on multiple real estate ventures that yielded no returns. He owed thousands in mortgages and millions to banks, including Fifth Third Bank in Lexington. He now works as a sales executive for a promotional products company where he's trying to make it all back slowly. If you've enjoyed this video so far, tell us who you think is the dumbest one yet in the comment section below. Number 4. Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence L.T. Taylor enjoyed an amazing career with the New York Giants, playing as a linebacker for 12 years. Having made nearly 1,100 tackles, LT is widely regarded as the greatest defensive player of all time in the NFL. With a portfolio full of trophies, which includes 2 Super Bowl championship titles, Taylor had a brilliant career. But his personal life, that was in shambles. He was a heavy drug user. He was seriously addicted to cocaine. He would spend thousands of dollars every day on drugs and get so wasted his wife had to come pick him up from the crack house. He, however, managed to pass drug tests by submitting his teammates' urine samples. Aside from literally blowing all of his money on coke and women, Taylor was defrauded and lost hundreds of thousands in yet another terrible investment. His current net worth is around $200,000, a tiny fraction of his $50 million that he used to have. Number 3. Travis Henry. Henry is yet another former NFL player who wrecked his bright future with drugs and women. However, his case is much worse than Taylor's, as he was kicked off of his team after failing multiple drug tests and failing to meet the team standards. A year after he was let go, Taylor was arrested by the DEA for his involvement in the drug trafficking operation. After a $4 million fine and some hefty legal fees, Travis was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for drug trafficking in 2009. And to make it all worse, though, he had at least 11 children from 10 different women and was paying over $170,000 just in child support. Not much is known about his whereabouts, but he sure isn't living large nowadays. Number 2. Warren Sapp. After spending 12 years in the NFL, Sapp had amassed a hefty fortune from his contracts and endorsements and speaking gigs and reality shows and even a book deal. My man raked in well over $100 million during his career, but he lost it all due to his extravagant life and terrible business decisions. He lived quite the life, obviously, spending lavishly on jewelry, shoes, and other exotic items like a lion skin rug and over 240 pairs of Air Jordans. In addition to his lavish lifestyle, Sapp's divorce cost him nearly half his fortune, coupled with child support payments that added up to nearly $75,000 a month. He also ran into some legal troubles after he was charged with soliciting a prostitute and assault, which took the rest of his money. In 2012, he filed for bankruptcy with barely $1,000 in his bank account and debts of nearly $6.7 million. Oh, yeah, and his ex-wife claims he still owes her $3 million. Yikes. Number 1. O.J. Simpson. At number 1, we got the man, the myth, the legend himself, O.J. Juice Simpson. Well, legend is probably the wrong term. Anyways, at the peak of his career, OJ was one of the best players the league had ever seen, and he won several awards during his famous 10-year career. However, it all came to a screeching halt when he was arrested and charged with the double murder of his former wife, Nicole Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman, who was stabbed to death. Although he was acquitted of these charges, a civil court later found him guilty. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million to the family of the deceased, not counting his enormous legal fees. In 2008, 10 years after the murdering case, Simpson was arrested again, this time on counts of robbery and kidnapping. OJ claimed he was trying to reclaim stolen memorabilia, which he alleges was stolen from his house in Florida. He was sentenced to 33 years of imprisonment, with at least 9 years without parole. He was released from prison in July 2017 and was released from parole in December of 2021. And that's how OJ went from a star NFL player worth millions to an ex-convict trying to get his life together. And that about wraps it up on the dumbest mistakes you shouldn't make if you want to keep your money.